So welcome to our Women's Finance panel on emotional resilience, looking at your work-life balance along your personal finance journey. Today's panel is just one of the many programs our Women's Leadership Committee has planned for this year. Creating and cultivating a supportive environment for our female students and alumni is a priority. So we hope you'll join us for more programs and help build this important cohort within the broader Bryant community. One thing I want to share with you is our Bryant mentoring platform, Alumni Fire. And within Alumni Fire, we have a women-specific group. It's a great place for you to share resources, network with other female alums, and continue this dialogue. Jobs are posted there, and mentoring opportunities are there with other alumni and current students. So we hope you'll make use of that part of our network. We've been hosting coffee break conversations since January, and we have 2 more coming up on April 7th and May 5th. We hope you'll consider joining us for one or some of those. And also I want to share with you that Women's Summit will be returning on June 16th. And all of the dates and events I've just mentioned are still virtual events. I can't wait for us to be able to gather in person. But until then, I hope you find some of these virtual programs beneficial as we try to really build a stronger women's affinity within the Bryant community. And now allow me to introduce today's moderator, my good friend and a great ambassador for the Bryant community, Eileen Hayes. Eileen received her degree in finance from Bryant University in 2007. As an active student, she served as student senate president. And since graduating, she has remained an energetic, galvanizing force in the Bryant community. While building her outstanding career, she has also found time to support her fellow alums. She was instrumental in planning many of our alumni gatherings, when we were allowed to gather, in New York City and later in Boston. And she is currently a member of our National Alumni Council. Eileen is Vice President, Asset Manager, Relationship Management at Envestnet. And she's responsible for advocating industry best practices and deepening relationships with asset managers, and ensuring that they have the tools, training, and knowledge they need to be successful. Eileen is joined by 4 esteemed alumni, and I now invite Eileen to introduce the panel.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, and good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for our second part of our series. This was not a requirement to be part of the first call at all, but if you did join us for part 1, you helped Soraya Morris with Envestnet Money Guide to navigate through an actual financial plan, and you saw just how adaptive a plan needs to be. It needs to twist and turn with us through the course of our lives, just as we experience it in reality. A plan needs to account for goals, changes in our careers, life experiences, and most importantly, a plan needs to start somewhere, right? So sometimes the hardest part is just knowing where to begin. At 35, I can tell you that if my life were an animal, I would be a chameleon, because there have been so many things I never saw coming. And I've had to change my colors quite a few times to adapt. And I am pretty certain that my life is not going to be static from here on out. I've learned from some of the choices that I've made personally and financially, and I can only hope to learn to make better decisions as I continue my journey. And I am sure that no matter what phase you are in your life, you will be able to relate a lot to this content that we're going to be talking about today. What Kathleen had said, and what we really want to focus on today, is emotional and financial resilience at any point in your life. And what is emotional resilience? It's the ability to adapt to a stressful situation, maybe a crisis. It's the ability to roll with the punches and adapting to adversity without having this long-lasting difficulty. And I think applying that to our financial lives is so important, because it's only going to help alleviate all of this stress that we have so we can deal with making those choices at hand. And today we're so excited to hear from money experts and personal experiences so that it can help you apply this content to your own life. And before we begin, we really want to get to know everyone on this call. So we want to know what phase in your life that you are. So Jessica is going to release a poll. We're going to have 2 questions. The first one, if you can just describe the best answer to where you are at this moment in time, we can get an idea. This is just going to help us create and alter our narrative for our call today.
And if your answer is other, feel free to type something into
Yes,
the
thank
chat.
you. Not everyone's a perfect fit. We get that. This is interesting. So most people planning for retirement is real. So I think that's really helpful. So Jessica, let me know when that poll is up. That's really interesting. And establishing myself in my industry, work hard, play hard, 29%, and other 6%. So we do have a really diverse group. And the second question we're going to answer is, what is the best explanation of your financial goals right now? I also just want to throw out there that if you do have questions as we go along the call today, feel free to type them in. We do have a lot of content, but I will try to incorporate it in as best as I can. Okay. Almost 50% of people feel comfortable balancing my day-to-day finances, haven't figured out next steps yet on a big purchase, but I've done the basics. That's great. 32% invested, save, and have made the big purchase. And 26% made some big purchases and focusing on how I want to spend my golden years. So this is a great group that we have today. So that's perfect. I think we're good on the polls. We have the content and we know who you are. So thank you so much for participating in that. And now to introduce our panel of speakers today, we have Carolyn Barone, class of 76. Carolyn is our super lawyer on the panel today. She is a top attorney in Rhode Island who is now enjoying her retirement. We have Jennifer Sahatti, class of 05. Jennifer specializes in employee education and education for study abroad students. She introduces people to money and helps build smart money beliefs and habits. We have Aliana Soto, class of 04. She is a community relations and education manager in rare blood disorders for Sanofi Genzyme. Prior to working in an industry where she helps to save lives, Aliana worked to transform finance operations to technology. And finally, we have Brooke Tomasetti, sorry, Brooke, class of 15, a personal finance coach and CEO at Money Life Mentor, where focused mentorship and a customized money plan help to change her clients' lives. So we have such good content, advice, and experience today. Let's dive right in and give each panelist a chance to introduce themselves in the order that I introduced you. If you can just share also the angle in which you're joining us today.
Good afternoon. I'm Carolyn Barone, and my angle is being happily retired. So I can give you my personal viewpoint of what it's like to spend your very last day at your job. I retired after practicing law for 38 years, and I pretty much, for those 38 years, practiced exclusively in the family court, doing divorce, child custody, child support, juvenile work, any issues arising out of the family court. After 38 years of being in the family court, trust me, I was ready to retire. Whether or not I was financially prepared, I was going to retire. I think it's very important that you start early. Never believe it's too late to start for retirement. Do your savings, do your homework, and really, if you're able to achieve that work-life balance during your years of working, you will be setting yourself up nicely to truly enjoy your retirement. I'd like to pass it on to our next panelist.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Sahatti. I had worked exclusively in the retirement education field for a long time. And in that time, I helped over 10,000 people be happy, like Carolyn, getting into retirement, balancing it all, figuring out how to save for retirement while also saving for kids' colleges and paying off your own debt. And now I do that on my own. I do that through workshops and keynote presentations, helping people figure out what the next step is and then how to actually do it. I love focusing on women in investing particularly. So I was really excited to join this panel and all of you awesome women today.
Hi, Aliana Soto. So I always like to tell people, born and raised New Yorker. And so even though now I work in pharma, having an impact on patients' lives, prior to that, I was on the back end of finance, on the IT side, implementing solutions to help my colleagues better serve their clients externally. And even though I don't do any education in finance, I do take my personal finance, my personal financial planning very serious. It's something that, which is why I studied finance at Bryant, which is why I think I was asked to be on the panel. It's something that I wouldn't say I enjoy, but I do take serious, and it's something that's an active part of my life regularly. It's not something that I just do or push aside. So I'm really excited to be sharing space with you all today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke Tomasetti, and I'm a personal finance coach at my small business, Money Life Mentor. And my role there is helping young professionals get organized with their finances so that they can create a life they love while investing for their future. And I've also worked full-time as a marketing strategist for the last 6 years. So I'm covering both the money coach angle in terms of working with clients, and then also my personal lens as the young professional who's investing for her future and working towards financial freedom while living an awesome life right now. And I'm very excited to be talking money with all of you guys today.
That's great. Thank you so much, guys. And I think just getting started, we should start at the very basics. And probably a question everyone on this call has had to ask themselves is, what is step one getting organized with my finances? So Jennifer, I'll start with you on that one.
This is one of my favorite questions because like every journey starts with that first single step. And to me, it's really having a clear vision of what you want to do, right? You can easily identify what dollars go where and what minutes go where once you know what you're trying to achieve and you have a list of priorities. So I would say step one, be really, really clear on what you want to achieve. And then you can start filling in the numbers for your budget when it comes down to that.
That's great. And Brooke, when you work with your clients, how do you help guide them where to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So step one, which is also the biggest challenge for most people when it comes to getting organized with their finances, is actually sitting down and figuring out what they want in their life. And a lot of people just haven't really invested the time in understanding what their dream life even looks like. Or maybe they laugh at the question because they're just not sure like what options or opportunities are open for them. And so when I work with especially young professionals on their personal finances, the first thing that we do at first glance doesn't really seem like it has much to do with money at all. And where I recommend most people start to build up like that self-awareness muscle and figure out really their why when it comes to finances is journal prompts. Because writing down or at the very least reflecting on aspects of our life is really powerful when it comes to figuring out what it is you want your life to look like, whether that's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years at retirement down the line. And one of those journal prompts, and we have a slide on this that we can pull up, but one of those prompts that I always recommend is ideal life journaling. I made up the name. I don't know if it's a real thing, but this is something that I implement with my clients really like in the first week. And the goal is to help you visualize as clear as possible what you want your dream life to look like, right? Because if you don't know what you want that to look like, it's really hard to work backwards and put together any kind of financial plan so that you can start using the money that you have coming in and putting that towards your saving goals and your investing goals. So I found this to be a really, really powerful exercise for people.
That's great. I like that self-awareness muscle. I think I could use some of that too. That's good. So thanks, Brooke. And for a lot of us, we experience a change in our lifetime, and whether it's changing our careers or charting a new course in life earlier or later. Aliana, I'll start with you, but Has your personal finances impacted your willingness to make a big change in your life or a career change?
I'm fortunate in that I'm a saver. And like I said, I'm very active in my finances. And so I'm very comfortable being able to go someplace else and move along in my career without worrying about what is that going to look like. But I would say some of the things that I consider are what my pay, my quality of life, is it going to change significantly? Because that's super important when we decide, okay, I want to make this big change, because there's a certain quality of life that you get used to as you kind of get older in age. And so, so many people have always encouraged me to work for myself. And you've got to know yourself if that's something that you're willing to do and something you want to do. Many of you do that here on this panel with me, right? And so I know that's not something for me. I know that's something that I don't want. And so I'm comfortable saying that and not being distracted by that and moving forward with, okay, what's the next step in my career? What is the company that I'm working for, and what do they look like? What's their next step? Are they going to be here tomorrow? Those are the type of conversations that I have with myself. And also, when I think about big decisions, I also make sure that I'm also set up as well in the event I need to take a step back for health reasons or family reasons. I can do that successfully if I needed to. And so that's really important when I make these decisions as well, that I'm set up personally, but then also that the company that I'm moving to is set up to support me and my career and moving me forward from my salary and benefits perspective, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And not everything has to be a challenge, right? Sometimes it's nice to alleviate that financial pressure that you can push yourself to make that change. And Carolyn, through the course of your profession, have your personal finances ever impacted your ability or thought about making a big change in your life?
Absolutely. And as I never say could have, should have, would have. I don't like any of that. I never go back in time. But certainly I like to move forward and give advice based upon my experience. And one thing I certainly do regret, I'm a dinosaur in more respects on this panel than just perhaps being the oldest one on the panel. Understand that my first job as an attorney, I was admitted to practice in the state of Rhode Island in November of 1980. I think I was sworn in on November 12. And November 15, I was employed. I was a brand new associate working with two attorneys who were brothers, partners in a obviously very small office. I never left that office. I stayed there until I retired. That's unheard of today. And that, again, looking back, if I could have done it over again, I would not have done that. I would have gained as much as I could from experience, and probably after 3 or 4 years moved on. And I can tell you, I was 30 years old when I started. I had a 4-year delay between high school and college. And that was my choice. I had a great time, had a lot of fun, but there are just so many nightclubs you can go to every night. And you realize that, let's get serious. You have to earn money, and let's do something productive with your life. So I went to college then. But the impact was as follows. At some point in time, especially in my profession, you do start earning money, and you find yourself realizing, perhaps after the 5th, 7th, or 10th year, you say to yourself, I don't know, there's nothing else I can do. This is all I know how to do, is practice law. I'm a lawyer. I really don't have transferable skills back in 1980 to 1990. You stay practicing law. And you're making decent money. And you say, well, I really would love to get into a corporate position outside of law, management, that type of, but who's going to hire me at the amount of money I'm making now? So you just continue. You say, okay, it's not all that bad. I'm not doing really what is truly going to make me happy and satisfied, but I'm making a good living. And I wish someone had shaken me and I could have gotten rid of that attitude and really just had more moxie and more guts and say, go for it. Make yourself happy. Do what you want to do. Wake up every morning really looking forward to going to work that day. And so be very careful. Don't fall in that trap. Don't fall in the comfort of your income or your benefits. I give Aliana credit, and I think that's where her discipline is going to help her and has already helped her, where she is approaching each job, each new venture from the perspective, okay, this is what I can earn. This is what I'm going to earn. And I'm going to have to start saving X amount of dollars so I can move forward from this position when I'm ready to. And money is not going to hold me back. Money is not going to keep me in this same position that psychologically I have outgrown and intellectually I have outgrown. Don't fall in the trap. Do it. You want to move on? Go ahead.
That is such amazing advice. And I think so many people can relate to that fear of change. Like you said, I'm so far along in my career path. How do I press the pause button? How do I start over? Do I even, can I take that risk? And how do my finances fall in line? And I think everyone's finances are in a different place in that. But I think that's just such incredible advice that you can kind of reflect back on your experience and share. Take that risk. I love that. And I think, sorry, go ahead, Karen.
No, take that risk.
That's right.
You're not going to die. And that's the worst thing that can happen to you in life. Do it. Take the risk. Make yourself happy. Really peaceful. Put yourself at peace.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense and takes perspective to kind of look at things a little different. It's not going to kill you. It'll make you stronger. And a lot of people are in a place of wanting to make a change. I think for me, I am at an inflection point in my life where I've had to have some serious conversations with myself of which path do I want to venture down? Do I want to put 100% of myself in my career? Do I want to make more money, rise up in my industry? Or do I want to take a breath now that I'm 35 and think about maybe starting a family, having a little quality of life? And each of these choices has a consequence to it, good or bad. So, Brooke, I'm curious, what advice do you have for balancing that opportunity cost we have when making a big decision?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is such a good follow-up to Carolyn's really great advice. And I would definitely go back to really, like we were talking about, building that self-awareness muscle. I think that that's definitely step one, because if you don't know where you want to go, it's really hard to make any kind of like big life decision or choice with your finances. And I'll use myself as an example because I think that my lifestyle is a little bit different from probably the average late 20s full-time worker. I'll tell you where I am right now. So over the last 5 years, I've worked full-time remotely while traveling around the world, and certainly hasn't been without its trade-offs, but you can kind of start to see, so for me, a flexible lifestyle and independence and travel are all really important values to me. And everyone's different, right? Like I always say, personal finance is personal. So doing the work, like the self-work and the self-awareness stuff is so important to help you make those decisions. But for it, in my case, when I graduated from Bryant in 2015, I started working at a marketing agency, and I really loved the work. I loved the team I was on. And then they implemented a policy where we could work remotely 1 day a week. And I was like probably the only person taking advantage of that. This was like 5 years ago. And I found that I loved it. I loved it so much. I was so much more productive. And I kind of decided like, well, why don't I try to do this every single day? Like, why don't I try to work remotely every day? So leading up to a conversation with my team where I was going to pitch essentially them hiring me as a contractor, full-time, but 100% remote, I started saving. So in that year, I paid off all of my student loans. I had a good emergency fund built up so that if I couldn't work remotely and I wanted to make that jump and try to find an agency that was remote that I could work for, then I could, have something to counter and have some time essentially to figure that out, right? Because money is really good for giving you the time and the space to make those big decisions, and really flexibility. So I ended up contracting for them full-time remotely. I eventually found an agency that was 100% remote, and I've been traveling while working remotely since then. I've been in Belize for the past month. So I kind of like spend long chunks of time in one place. And this isn't for everyone, right? Like some people want that flexibility so that they can work with, spend more time with their family or their loved ones. But really having that financial buffer made it such an easy decision for me to ask for what I wanted at that role, at that agency. So I think that's like definitely a good personal example. And then Eileen, you were talking about trade-offs. So had I wanted to work in corporate, this might have presented more of an opportunity cost just in terms of lifestyle versus income, right? Because maybe if I were in a corporate role, I probably would be making a higher salary if I were in New York City or something like that. But I found that, and I only learned this from doing it myself, but I found that working corporate wasn't a career requirement for me. And I actually discovered that I could have a rewarding, lucrative career while working remotely and still having that maximum flexibility with my time. So yeah, hopefully that helps some of you guys think through like your current experience.
I love that. And you took the risk and you figured out who you are as a person, what's important to you, and that helped you weigh those opportunity costs. I think that's great. And Jennifer, I'll kind of turn to you. And I know you work with a lot of clients and you probably have some stories and experiences you could share about, how they looked at opportunity costs, maybe what choices they made, and share with us some of your stories.
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of modeling, right? So when you model out the different scenarios, it can help bring some clarity, right? So in your specific case, and I'm sure a lot of women here have that same exact case where it's, do I work more and focus on that income and career, or do I focus on family? What's the trade-off? I mean, if you haven't seen headlines about that right now, about how many women are leaving the workforce, whether it's retirement or choosing an alternative lifestyle or being that home care or working part-time to do it, it would be under a rock, right? Because it's a really common topic right now. For me, I like to model out. I'm an Excel person. I'm a huge dork, like super dork. So I like to just model it out, right? What I know is today. So when you model out your scenario today, these are my costs. This is my income. This is the lifestyle I'm used to. And then you can start thinking about the next two paths that are ahead of you. If I make more money, right? This would be my lifestyle. And these are the things that it could afford. If I instead pivot and entirely work from home or work part-time or become a stay-at-home mom, like this would be my lifestyle. Here are some of the versions in between. And once you start putting in those numbers, it can help you start to combat that little voice in your head that says, I can't do this, or I wouldn't be able to do that. Because oftentimes you'll be able to see, oh, well, actually, if I focus on my career, that might give me a salary that would allow me to hire a nanny or to hire a part-time babysitter and still provide for my family while having that career. Right? There's a lot of opportunity to have it all. So to me, it's model it out so that you can see the numbers, so that you can really feel the scenario, and so that you can know what's really available to you, because there's a lot of available options. It's not just the ones that we hear in our head, like it's this or this. I have to make a choice as a woman. I think there's a lot more that we can do when we really recognize how powerful we are and the resources that we can get.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it kind of goes back to the first part of our series, is navigating that adaptable financial plan so that you can actually see it on paper if it's even a viable option. Can I do this? Or how do I mitigate, the choices I make so I can have the best of the most of choices that I, can put together in my life plan. So I think that's really, really helpful. All right, I'm going to shift the conversation. I think it's time to talk about relationships and money. So it may be that most of us beautifully educated Bryant alumni are the breadwinners, or maybe not, but how are we supposed to share our money? Not that I'm heading down a negative path, but how do we protect ourselves if that relationship or that partnership doesn't work out? So Jennifer, I'm just going to go back to you. What's your advice for personal finances and relationships?
This is one of my favorite topics. As being like that person who talks to everyone about money, you see like these scenarios of success, and like you're asking before about stories. Like I call them the brokenhearted, like the people who would come and talk to me and they would have no one else they could share this with. And they would just share with me like, I just went through a divorce. I have $20,000 for retirement. I'm 50. Like, I don't know what to do with like my life now. I don't know if I can even retire. Like, I had some real conversations. And when you start hearing it again and again, you can kind of see a theme. And one of the biggest themes was people don't talk about money. It's rude. It's something you're not supposed to do, especially as a woman, right? Like it can be seen as materialistic or manipulative. Like, don't talk about money. No, like just be a good girl. Don't ask any questions. And it's an awful path, right? Like you need to talk about money. It's the lifeblood of your family. It's what will fuel your dreams, whether it's the Lees or a family, right? Like money is essential. It's not the only thing in the world, but it's what will power your dreams. So you need to find a way to talk about money often, right? Do it in a way where you can really talk to each other and see, what goals do I have? What goals do you have? What goals do we have? How do we partner on that? Because the number one thing that will hold you back from a beautiful plan is if your partner, the love of your life, is secretly running in the other direction, trying to achieve something else with the best of intentions, right? There are definitely some rogues, but a lot of times it is just with the best of intentions. This is how I can best help our family, and it works completely counter to what you might be doing. So one of the things I recommend is sitting down once a month. I like to do it when the bell comes in because it's a nice, easy cue, right? The bell comes in, you're like, oh, tonight's the night. I always have sweets around so that afterwards you can reward yourself, because yeah, it's awkward. It's tough to do this. I had one client, they were adorable. They called it cake night, and they would bake a cake while talking about it. And cake was not only the dessert and the reward for being like adulty and having this difficult conversation that was really important for their future, but it was also an acronym for caring about our kids' education. So in that whole theme of I have to think about my priorities, they would do something together that would make it more fun. They would have a nice treat at the end. And in that time, they would say, like, maybe I'll take that extra shift this Saturday with our kids in mind. Maybe I won't buy that new purse with our kids in mind, right? And they would just talk and negotiate through that. Yeah, that is exactly how you have your cake and eat it too. Thank you, Kathleen. I love that. Right. So when it comes to finances and money, number one, like forget about that old idea. Like you can't talk about money. You really need to. You need to talk about money in a way that's respectful and understanding. Make sure that you're on board and you're with your partner with what your goals are, and have fun with it. Right. If you want a mediator, like I can do that. I've helped a lot with that. Sometimes just having someone else in the room who gets it, who's seen the different scenarios, who is both the fun person and the financial person. I am the weird combination of the two. Like whatever it is, it's going to be really essential for the long-term success of your family. And if you don't want to have conversations like that, talk to a lawyer and get a good prenup, right, Carolyn?
Yes. There's so much I could say on this subject. Unfortunately, you'd be here all night. Unfortunately, we often see, at least in my practice, I saw either the husband or the wife when there was no way they were going to bake anything together. You know, they weren't even going to eat or share a store-bought cookie together. And I think women today have to realize, especially women who are professional, college educated, master's degrees, beyond that, you do have to prepare yourself for a divorce, because a divorce in many, many states is pretty much going to wipe out close to, if not up to 50% of your retirement savings. Now, are you going to make that up? Because you're also in that pot, that marital pot of assets that are going to be divided, that will be divided, is your husband's, your spouse's retirement assets as well. Now, if they're pretty much equal, then fine. The impact on your retirement that divorce is going to create is not going to be all that great. But if you are the breadwinner and you have the bulk of those retirement funds, understand what you were envisioning to be a very comfortable retirement is now 50% of that is going away. Prenuptial agreements are very, very helpful. I will tell you that I am married. I was married later in life. I was in my mid-40s before I found the gentleman that I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. And I am the breadwinner. I've always been the major breadwinner in this marriage. And I would never, ever ask him to sign a prenuptial agreement. But that's just me. I don't like them. Gives me a bad feeling, but that's just me. And I have drafted many, many prenuptial agreements for clients. I don't want to go on because, but just be prepared. Oh, one other thing I do want to mention, and I know we have some financial advisors and financial managers here in this room with us today. Oftentimes when I would have represent and it would be in my years of practice, the wife, the female, coming in and even getting 50% of her husband's retirement funds, they were small. I knew that she would never have a comfortable retirement. So what I would try to do is say, let's try and get more than 50% of the retirement assets. You may have to take less in other division of the other non-financial assets, but we really have to, let's see how much we can bulk up your retirement accounts, because you're 50 years of age. You best you got another 15 years of working, and you're not making six figures. So my goal would be try and get this woman as much of the retirement accounts as possible, and get her off the furniture, get her off the automobile, get her off the timeshare, get her off assets that were only going to cost her money to maintain, and let's bring in much of the financial, even if you got to waive alimony or have a reduction in alimony, which today, of course, let's all be aware of the fact there's no such thing anymore as spousal support. But back in the day, that would have been a goal for me.
Yeah. Carolyn, you are a unicorn. I never thought that I would hear a lawyer say they don't believe in a prenup. So I love that perspective.
It's just my own personal, that's all.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, something, Jennifer, you said that really resonated is it's very easy to kind of touch on finances with your partner, right? You have that one conversation and you said it and you forget it. We're on the same page, but life changes, and kind of coming back to that, making sure you're both on the same page, not only helps with finances, but it helps with your communication. So I think that's amazing. And Brooke, working with your clients, is there anything you can share with us or stories about relationships and finances?
Yeah, so I tend to work with mostly I'd say early mid-20s is probably the bulk of the people who I work with. So most of them are, maybe half of them are in a relationship. And their question is always like, but how do I get this conversation started, right? Because it can be a little bit awkward. Like Jennifer was saying, it's such a taboo subject, unfortunately. Like I wish that it was more normal to talk about finances, but it definitely has like a rude connotation with it, or like a prying connotation. And I always tell them like one way to get the conversation going around finances is to just start dreaming together. Like anything that's future focused ties back to finances. So for example, if you have, let's say, a trip or a vacation that you've always wanted to do, maybe share that and find out something that they have like on their bucket list. And from there, it's really easy to like talk about goals and how those translate into financial goals. Like what is the financial piece of planning, even just something small. Like you can take something really little to start, like maybe you're both interested in, like a long weekend in the Cape, for instance. And you can set a savings goal that you both are working towards, right? Like even if you don't have joint finances, you can still have like joint money goals and plan together. It's like a very important part, very core part of a relationship, right? And I 100% back Jennifer on the monthly financial sessions with your partner. So I can add a little more color to that as well. I call them monthly money parties. Like Jennifer was saying, like try to make it fun. Like I'm like, get a glass of wine, and like even if you don't have a partner, my clients still do these by themselves. They make it almost more of like a self-care monthly event. And it's really important to actually schedule this out in your calendar. So I would say block out an hour on your calendar. I like to do this the first weekend of each new month and then use it to reflect on the previous month. So some of the things that that I do in that little session is like share your money goals with each other, reflect on your spending from the last month, make sure that your bank and credit card statements all make sense, update your budget if needed, if you're doing a budget, and most importantly, just try to make that hour something that you and your partner look forward to, right? So I think that's super important, whether you're in a relationship or not.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. And it all comes back to being in touch with yourself at the same time and knowing, where you are so you can set the next kind of benchmark and the next journey that you're going on. So I think that's really good advice. Okay, shifting from relationships, Carolyn, back to you. You have had such an incredible career journey where you have successfully navigated the waters that we're discussing today on this call. What do you think best describes, where you are in your life and what choices are the most important to you now?
Oh, okay. I've been lucky. I've been a very, very lucky person. I made a decision to retire at the age of 70 because I needed to max out my Social Security. I realized that if I continued to work beyond my full retirement age, which was 67 and a couple of months, that when I did retire at the age of 70, I would be receiving from Social Security an additional $800 per month. And that was important to me. First of all, I ran the numbers. You have to run the numbers. Was I going to, what am I going to lose by not collecting Social Security, my Social Security payments for those from the age of 67 to the age of 70? And I had to keep in mind the fact that there is incredible longevity in my family on both sides. Grandparents, 101, aunts, 102, 101, 100, my mother, 98 years of age. So I have to make certain that I don't outlive my retirement. I have retirement accounts, which came very late in my life. I didn't start seriously saving for retirement until I was 40 years of age. Too late. I've done well. I've been very happy about that in terms of what I had invested in, and understand that the firm I worked for 38 years only started a retirement fund in my 36th year. So I only had 2 years of an employer sponsored 401k program. The rest came from just, okay, take advantage of the IRAs and the tax deduction and the tax and all this, that, and whatever. So I don't have a luxurious lifestyle, but I now have a comfortable lifestyle. So a lot of that was some planning from the age of 40 going forward. I would advise the majority, or if not all, of the guests in this seminar this afternoon, start today, start tomorrow. First thing, start tomorrow. It's never too soon. And as I have probably in my own life showed you, it's never too late either. You don't need to put in $10,000 every year. Start now. I don't care how young you are, $500 a year. Put it in an IRA. You get a raise, consider adding to that every year. But you're going to get there eventually, but it does take planning. And even though the 20 years that I planned, in 20 years, or let's say 25 years or so, it's worked out well for me. And again, I don't have this luxurious lifestyle, but it works. That's
yeah,
it.
no, I think that's a good point. And also, if you're in a job at a firm that really matches that retirement, you know, that's really important to take advantage of that too. It just doubles it up.
You bet. Take advantage of anything that's free. Do it. Absolutely.
Kind of my motto in life. I love that. But Aliana, being at a different place in your life, can you share with us kind of what your position is and what choices are most important to you right now?
First, I want to say, Carolyn, I do want a prenup. So that is, I want to just say that I don't have anyone to have a prenup with, but that's on my back of my mind. But we'll cross. I'll call you when I get there, and you can advise me.
And I will send you to a very good attorney who will help you. Absolutely.
As I shared, as you shared in my bio, I was in finance for about 15 years. Now I'm in pharma. So kind of did a whole career switch, and now I'm building my career there, and looking to move around and move up. So I've got a little bit to go as far as retirement. But what I am looking for now is residual income. Many of us were around what happened with the Madoff scandal, and a lot of people had a lot of their money in that. And I know people personally who had retired and lost everything, right? I was also around when I bought my home in 2007 and the market crashed in 2008, and I worked at Lehman Brothers at that time, right? And so these things are real. And so I kind of always lives in the back of my mind of like, what happens when I retire? Is my money even going to be there all these years of investing in a Roth and a 401k? Everyone has this rumor. I don't necessarily know where you stand on it, but like, is Social Security going to be there when I'm ready to retire, right? And so I'm looking for residual income. So whether I actually retire or I'm not able to work anymore, something happens, that I do have income that's coming in regularly that I can depend on. And when I purchased my place, I made sure that I got life insurance policies, that if anything were to happen to me, disability policies, that my home would be paid off, that I have a place to live, because that was important to me as a single person, or that if something were to happen to me, my family could take it on and they have the money to pay for that. And that would be in my family. That was important to me. And so even if you don't have children, you have brothers, you have sisters, you have parents, you have cousins, you have nieces and nephews. So that was important to me when I made those decisions, and those are still important to me. And so as I make investment decisions and life decisions, it's always, okay, what does the next 20 years look like for me? What do I want to make sure that I have for myself so that I can lean back on in the event anything happens? Like I said, I make decisions when I make employment decisions. Is this company able to support me in my career and moving on and financially? But you just never know. I may need to take a step back. and I want to know that I can support myself. I don't have a partner that can help support me. So what do I need to set up to have that in place? And whether that's disability policies or residual income coming in or other life insurance policies, reverse policies that are paying me back. And so I have those things set up because realistically, that's where I'm at. And so I've done a lot of the things everyone has shared. And so now I'm in the next stage of investing and financial planning where I'm looking for other creative things. And some of those things may actually take time. Everyone wants to talk about like investing in real estate, you know, being landlord. That's work. That is work. And if you know New York City, you know, right? Okay, so, you know, there's other things, right? There's other things outside of real estate. And so what is that for me? What does that look like for me? Because as I mentioned, my quality of life is very important. My mental health is very important. And so I never want to find myself doing something just for money as opposed to doing something for the life that I need for myself. And so that's where I'm at now, and trying to identify what that is for me and what that looks like and setting that up. So it's when I need it, it's there.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I think that, you know, it's easy to get caught up in obtaining that asset, but how to protect that asset and mitigate the risk that could come in, you know, in your journey is kind of a secondary thought. But I think that's just such interesting and good insight about that. So thank you. And I know we just have a couple minutes left, and I just want to take the time to run through our panel really quick. And if we could just take a few minutes, and if each of our panelists can recap what they think the most important thing they'd like to share, either in their own personal journey or working with their clients on their journey is, and we can go in the same order I introduced everyone. So Carolyn.
I would say that make your health, your physical and emotional health, a priority. Put it right up there with your financial health. Because that is going to become very important once you are retired and you start entering into the years where you can no longer take good health for granted. When you start getting into your 60s and approaching 70 and you're in your 70s, it's a big issue because it's going to take a sizable amount of your retirement funds to either stay healthy at that age or to take care of the health issues that are going to arise. I think you're going to put yourself in a good position if you take your health very seriously. Exercise, keep your weight down. And I'm giving you all advice that I've never done. So I am talking to you from experience. You don't want to develop issues with walking when you've had the vision of traveling the world when you retire. So don't forget, again, retirement is beyond money, and keep health a priority as well.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Next.
I love that advice. I think I would add on to it. Money and time are your two best resources. So always think clearly about how you want to invest each of them and realize that you have the full choice behind that, right? You are the master of your life, of your money, of your time. So make sure that you are owning that and taking full advantage of all of your awesomeness. All of you are bright, educated women. And I think sometimes life can feel like it's happening to us and that we're not in control because we get pulled in so many different directions because we want to be the best worker and the best mom and the best wife and the best daughter. And if you take a step back and recognize, I only have one life, I only have so much time, I only have so much money, what's really important to me, you can have a healthier, better life.
Beautiful.
So Carolyn mentioned earlier that you're not going to die, right? And so I want to say, make that decision. And it's easy to want to stay away and not make the choice. And that's a choice too. But even making a small choice is not going to kill you. And if you find yourself making an investment decision that will financially drain you, then that's not the right decision for you, right? You're in over your head. Additionally, talk to your friends, talk to your college roommates. I know it's weird. You don't want people to know how much you make. Why not? We should know how much we make. That's how we know our worth. That's how we know we're underpaid. Mostly, typically underpaid, right? Realistically, I'm not even going to say overpaid, but maybe that's how we know where we are in life. So talk to your friends, talk to your college roommates, talk to your neighbors. Ask, how much do you pay in homeowners insurance? Really? Oh, I don't pay that. Do you have renters insurance? It can be that simple. It's not even just show me your 401k. I don't know where to choose. How do I choose, right? I mean, it could be as simple as like, who do you have car insurance with? Do you pay extra because you live in this neighborhood? I don't, or you do, right? Start small. So many of us are in this, having these same conversations, and we're having them separately. Ask about podcasts, right? And then if you meet a financial planner, if you meet someone and you're not comfortable, then don't go with them. You don't have to make that choice. And if they're pressuring you, then that's not the right person for you. Okay. The market goes up, it goes down. It goes up, it goes down. And don't kill yourself that, oh man, this stock went up and I missed it. It'll come down again. There'll be another one. It's okay. And we find ourselves wanting to keep up with the Joneses and do investing and do things that we may not be ready. We may not be ready for that. We may feel like we're pressured because everyone else is doing it, or our planner or someone we're talking to is advising us. And if you're not comfortable, then that's not the right step for you. You need to find someone that's a better fit. And I do feel recommendations. You need to interview people and find out, who are they? Where do they live? Who are their kids? Know your financial planners. Know these people who want to sell you life insurance and want to invest your money. Who are they? Where are you from? What's your middle name? So they're touching your money. And if you have that relationship where it's giving you anxiety and stress, be open about that. And then one of the things I think Brooke and Jennifer both mentioned is that, what are your goals? Where do you want to see yourself? And sometimes you don't really know. Like, I didn't know if I was going to have children or not. I didn't know if I was going to be married or not, but I knew that this was an asset that I wanted to hold on to. And so I set it up that way, that this was an asset that I wanted my family to keep, whoever my family was. I had family at the time. I have a mom and a dad. Okay, you can change that. You can change your beneficiaries, right? So you don't have to say, oh, well, I didn't know. Well, you can put your sister on there. You can put your dad on there as a beneficiary and go from there. It's okay. And so you're not going to die. Right. And I want to just close with that. Start small, whatever Carolyn said, 500, whatever it is, and go from there and ask your friends, and don't be afraid to bring in someone with expertise. And you don't have to choose the first person you speak to. You can choose other people. There's plenty of them out there. And yes, my siblings are all my beneficiaries.
That's great. Thank you. And with just one more minute to go, Brooke, I just wanted to close off with you.
Yeah. So something that I've learned along my journey is that the two most important skills to learn 20s, 30s, really like regardless of age, is number one, self-awareness, and number two, how to manage your money. Because if you understand those two things, you can be super intentional about your financial and your life choices. And then you can in turn use money as a tool for creating whatever it is that you want in your life.
This panel has been exceptional. This has been a great conversation. I know we could have continued this for so long. I just want to thank everyone so much for joining us. We would love to hear your feedback. If you have any comments or thoughts about some future events or ideas or want to participate, it's so amazing that we support each other in this Bryant community. So thank you, Kathleen, and the panel for the opportunity to have this conversation. And I hope everyone has a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Can the panel stay on for a few seconds as we watch it sign off?